Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope everybody's doing good. So today we have another mystery book recommendation, and this is my dog barking when mama's recording. Why? These books are books that I've read for the past, I guess, since February, and it's now April 1st. And I was going to do a March wrap up, but then I was just like, but I've read other books before March that were really good, so I was like, let me just do all of the books in one and just name it a mystery book recommendation. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So the first book that I read was 8 Perfect Murders. Now this book on my Goodreads, I did give it a 3 out of 5. It was not my favorite book just because I feel like the narrator was really it was just monotone the whole time, to where when things happened, I didn't really get the thriller vibe, just because it was just told in it was just really flat, I feel like. And maybe it's just me, and I just wasn't reading it in the tone that it should have been read in, but I was just getting really monotone vibes from the narrator the entire time. I don't want to spoil it, but it did give me Silent Patient vibes. But overall, I thought the plot line was interesting. I really did like the character, and I loved the detective. So this book, it is about a bookseller named Malcolm Kershaw. There are murders happening, but the murders are happening from books that he wrote a blog post about. So he was writing, he basically wrote 8 perfect murders, like a blog post for his bookshop, and then there was a serial killer going around copying the murders that were happening from his blog post. So a FBI detective comes to him and is questioning him just to get help, to see if he can help them solve the murders, basically. Overall, I gave it a 3 out of 5. Like I said, not my favorite book, but it was still a pretty good read. And I feel like if you guys wanted something that's similar to Silent Patient, then 8 Perfect Murders should be up your alley. The next book that I read was Don't Tell a Soul. Now this book on my Goodreads, I gave it a 4 out of 5, but really I think that was on accident because I gave it a 5 out of 5. This book was good. So this book is about a girl, I think her name is Emmy. Oh no, oh my god, why am I talking about Emmy? Her name was Bram, and so she had something happen from her hometown, and her mother sends her to go live with her uncle, and this is her favorite uncle in the world. She adores him, he's like a father to her. But when she goes to live with him in this house, there are spooky things happening in the house, and she's starting to see people. And Bram did have a previous drug problem. She's trying to convince people that she has not relapsed, but what she's seeing is actually real. And Bram is trying to figure out the mystery of the house, because there is a room where her uncle's previous wife died, but then also I believe the uncle had another wife that died from carbon monoxide poisoning. It was just seen as a series of unfortunate events. There are just a lot of rumors about the house and her uncle that are going around town. So Bram is trying to figure out the mystery behind the house, and this book was really good because it has to do with anxiety. It deals with drug abuse. I believe there's a trigger warning in here, but if not, I'm gonna say it. So it does have to deal with sexual assault, drug issues, rehabilitation, anxiety, depression. So if you are sensitive to that, just beware. This book does contain all of those. This book threw me for a curveball because I was not expecting it in the end, and I was really it was just something to where it's just it has to do with a lot of betrayal, trust issues. But this book was a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed it, and I was hoping that there would be a sequel, but based on the ending, there's definitely not going to be a sequel to this book. But this one I recommend overall. Don't Tell a Soul by Kristen Miller. So this book, it's gonna go in my little Hall of Fame up here, okay? Next book that I read was The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane. Now I gave this one a 4 out of 5. This one has to do with a girl named Emmy who is shipped off to a boarding school because her mother doesn't really know how to parent, and her father went missing. So Emmy gets shipped off to this boarding school because her mother is a psychologist, and she's filming a TV show about how to parent your child or something like that. And Emmy goes to the school. Her father left her a bunch of medallions and letters from his past life, and when she goes to the school, she's starting to notice that there's little things everywhere that have to deal with her father and deal with the medallions that he gave her. And so Emmy is trying to figure out the mystery between the connection of why her mother sent her to this particular school, if her father is still alive, what does the medallions have to do with the school. And this book was awesome. So this is actually a middle grade book, but the type of suspense and mystery in this book, I was not expecting it to be middle grade level. I was kind of thinking it to be like a teenager, young adult, even though I guess like middle graders are young adults, but I was thinking this was a book for like 15 and up, if you get what I'm, if you're catching what I'm throwing, okay? If you're catching what I'm throwing. There was a lot of things in here to where it was just, even I was kind of getting kind of nervous, and I was getting full body chills, because there's a couple things in here where she finds out where things are just starting to connect, and they're getting all, things are just connecting. And this book, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very, very suspenseful. It was a thriller. I really liked it. I got the second book, which was The White Hall, I believe. What's it called? Secret of the White Stone. That's the second book to this book, so I'm gonna read that soon because this one was such a good book. So The Mystery of Black Hollow Lane by Julia Noble. So the next book that I read was Small Spaces, and this one's by Catherine Arden. So I did talk about this book in one of my book hauls that I filmed previously. I think it was not this one, but the last one that I filmed. So Small Spaces is about a girl named Ollie, where she goes on a field trip with two friends, and there ends up being a book that Ollie finds, and she reads it, and then basically what she's reading is actually a diary of things that happened, and Ollie has to save herself and her friends from being turned into scarecrows from the book. So I don't want to get too much. The reason why I'm being so vague about it is because if I give you the synopsis of the book, it's kind of gonna tell you the story, and I don't want to tell you the story, if that makes sense. It's driving me crazy that the sticker got picked off of here, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Ollie's just having a really, really hard time with coping with the loss of her mother, and basically there is a man called the Smiley Man, I think it's called. Yes, he's the Smiley Man, and he is out to get Ollie because there's something on Ollie's person that the Smiley Man wants, and I'm not gonna say what it is, but he wants it. Ollie has it, and he is going to basically, the story revolves around getting Ollie to become one of these scarecrows that is just left on the farm. So if you can see, there's some scarecrows back here in the farm. Ollie has to save herself and her friends from becoming scarecrows forever. I have my handy dandy Kindle right here. So the next book that I read was the same one. It's book 2 by Catherine Arden, and it is Dead Voices. I think I'll put it somewhere around me. And this one, it is the second book in the trilogy of Small Spaces. And so this one, it is about Ollie and her friends Coco and Brian. They go to a skiing lodge, and basically what happens is the Smiley Man follows them to the skiing lodge, and he again is still trying to get this object on Ollie's person. And so what happens is Ollie's new friends, now it's Coco's turn to save everyone. So Coco has to go and fight her fears of the dark. Coco is very, very terrified of the dark, and in this lodge they are snowed in. There's no electricity, no lights, there's nothing. And so the Smiley Man makes a game with Coco, and she has to save her friends from being stuck in the Smiley Man's world forever. So that book I thought was super, super good. And if you're looking for something that's more on the lesser side of the reading spectrum, so where you're not really having to read like 300, 400 page books, then the Small Spaces trilogy is for you. So the next book that I read also was on my Kindle, and it was called The Secret Key. Yes, it was called The Secret Key by Lena Jones. So this book is about a girl named Agatha, and she was named after her mother's favorite author, Agatha Audley. So there is a mystery going on in the town where mysteriously all of the water in Agatha's town got contaminated, and basically it is making everyone sick, it's poisoning everything. And Ollie is not involved in a hit and run, but she witnesses a hit and run, and so she goes to save this woman, and the woman turns out to be a part of the secret society. And if this hit and run was actually an accident or was it on purpose. So Agatha ends up trying to solve the mystery of this woman and the secret society and what it has to do with the water being contaminated in London. And she ends up finding a lot more than what she bargained for. She ends up finding about her mother, and she ends up being embroiled into this really dangerous plot to take over the city. And Agatha, being named after Agatha Christie, loves being a detective, so that is her thing. This girl is like, I'm gonna figure out, like, she wants to be the one to solve the mystery. She wants to be the one to solve it before the police. And I believe she has a friend named, I think it's either Liam or Lewis. I want to say it's Liam, sorry. So I thought that was like a really, really cute small read. It was nothing really crazy. It wasn't a big book or anything like that. So I have been gravitating more towards like middle grade mysteries because they're very quick, and it actually talks about the mystery. Like, Who would have thought? Yes, The Secret Key by Lena Jones, but with Agatha Ali. I thought that was a great book, so I think you guys should check that out too. So the next book that I read was The Peculiar Incident on Shady Street. And this book is about a girl named Tessa, where her family moves her from Florida to Michigan or Detroit. Oh no, they moved her to Chicago. So she moves to Chicago and she's not having a good time. So she left all of her friends. Her parents moved her out here because her father is a violinist and he got signed with a contract with the Orchestra of Chicago, and they moved her into this house, which happens to be a haunted house. And so with Tessa, she's been trying to convince her family that the house is haunted, but they're just like, you're just upset because we moved. Just relax, enjoy your surroundings, you'll be fine. But Tessa is really getting nervous because her brother has like this ventriloquist doll, and the doll starts talking to her. Like, this doll is telling her things about the house, it's stalking her, and come to find out that there was a child that died in the house and the ghost will not move on unless Tessa can help her. But Tessa's trying to figure out what is it that this ghost particularly wants with her, and what it is she can do to help this ghost move on. So The Peculiar Incident on Shady Street, I thought that, I can't talk shady. Sorry. Peculiar Incident on Shady Street, I thought was a really good book and something I think you guys should read too. Now the next book that I read was The Dollhouse Murders, and this book I also gave a 4 out of... We're not having a good time. We're not having a good time. The ghosts are trying to talk to me, and they're trying to talk to me, and they're I don't know what it is that they're trying to tell me, but tell me later. So The Dollhouse Murders by Betty Wren Wright. Now this one I did talk about it in a book haul that I got, and this book was spectacular. This book is about a girl named Amy, where she gets into it with her parents because she does not want to really take care of her sister having a disability. Her sister does have special needs, and Amy is kind of like her sister's keeper, and she just wants a break. She feels like she's losing friends over her sister's disability, and she just wants to be normal for even if it's just a little bit of time. So she goes to stay with her aunt for a week, and her aunt has a dollhouse in the attic. But when she goes up to the dollhouse and she just starts to kind of play with it a little bit, she's noticing that the dolls were not exactly where she left them. The aunt is kind of really touchy about the dollhouse because her parents were murdered, and it was in that particular house that Amy is staying in with her aunt. I'm not going to get into the story about like the dollhouse and the aunt because it's going to ruin the story, but the dollhouse was a gift to the aunt. The aunt hated it, so she just put it up in the attic forever. And now the dolls are trying to tell a story about the murders that happened in the house. I thought it was like a really good mystery book. It was like a great whodunit kind of mystery. It was really short, but I feel like it was great and got to the point and you solved the mystery. I did give it the 4 out of 5 just because once it got to the ending and you figured out what happened, it was very rushed, and you didn't really have that much of a backstory on what actually happened with the murders. Like, you got introduced to new people that you weren't introduced before. They were kind of just thrown in there, so that's kind of, I was just like, oh hi, how are you, you're new. Oh, I still thought this was a good book because it does kind of give you a nice good lesson about accepting people in your family, and you can't change your family, you can't pick your family. So I turn them this way because they're just falling. The next book that I read was City of Ghosts. You guys already know about this book. I feel like this book is now everywhere. So City of Ghosts is about a girl named Cass who has abilities of seeing the dead because she was saved from dying by her ghost best friend named Jacob. And Cassidy's parents are paranormal investigators. Her mother is more so into the ghosts. Her father is more so on the practical side. So they end up getting a TV show, traveling the world, and taking Cass with them to do documentaries about the paranormal investigations. Cassidy ends up getting caught up with a local legend when they go to Scotland for her parents' first episode, and Cassidy has something that the local legend wants, which is a light source that Cassidy has that's visible when she goes to the Vale. And so Cassidy has to fight off this ghostly legend in order to keep her light source. This book, I gave it a 5 out of 5. Pick this one up. The City of Ghosts by V.E. Schwab. Now, the last book that I read was The Inheritance Game. I actually read this book last year, but for some reason it got stuck behind my bookshelf and I kind of just forgot about it, so my bad. So this book is about a girl named Avery, where she randomly inherits 46 billion. $46.2 billion from this man that she has never met before, never heard of him in her life, but he knows her very well, and he left her an inheritance. And the deal is she has to stay in the house for a year with his family, solving a mystery that he left behind if she wants to keep the cash. So Avery decides to take him up on his offer to see what's up with this guy and figure out the mystery of who this man is and how he knows her name. But when she gets to the house, he has a huge family and they are all pissed or super mad. Really? You're gonna do that now? And they are upset because the entire family has been cut out of the will and it's all left to Avery. So the deal is the only way that Avery or that the family gets to keep the money is if Avery dies, and Avery kind of is becoming a target, and she has to solve the mystery of what this house has to do with her and what this man has to do with her before she ends up and the family gets the money. But everybody and everything is not what it seems. There's a lot of betrayal in this book. But yeah, I gave this book a 4 out of 5 just because I really love the mystery aspect of it, and everybody loves a good old Knives Out type murder mystery. This is literally, if you've ever seen Knives Out, it's kind of like that, but not really, but it kind of is like that, but with sons or with grandsons. It's got the whole family vibes. Everybody's upset that somebody, like a stranger, inherited all the money and they want in, basically. Supposedly there's like a lot of Easter eggs on the cover of this one, but maybe it was just me, but I didn't get it. But there's Easter eggs on the cover of the book, so if you guys can figure it out, or if you guys figured it out, let me know, because your girl over here missed it. But no, that's all the books that I have for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys supporting me and watching all my videos, and I will see you all next time. Bye.